I didn't prepare for this. Okay, starting. I can't do this. Hi everyone, my name is Dana. Welcome back to my channel. Today I have with me Sharon, and today we are going to continue my installment of the Enneagram series. So Sharon, what Enneagram are you?
I'm type 6.
Today we're going to talk a little bit about the type 6 and what characteristics are present in a type 6, and then how a type 6 and a type 1 kind of interact.
So a type 6 usually, if you like scroll down your Instagram feed, and I don't know if you subscribe to like Enneagram Instagrams, but then if you do, typically they'll say that you're called a loyalist. You're very security oriented, probably struggle a lot with anxiety, doubt, your self-confidence, and then probably that you're a loyal friend. I used to think that I was more of a looser type 6, but then recently I retook the test this week just so I was sure that I was a type 6.
Like before coming on the video?
It was after you asked me.
That seems like a type 6 thing.
Yeah, exactly. So then, because I didn't want to like mislead you, because every time I scroll on those things, you know how they have the collages of like, oh, what you would wear if you were type 6, or what you would like bring in your backpack if you were type 6. I always don't agree.
Oh, I see.
And then, so I was like, am I really a type 6? This seems like very exaggerated, right?
Okay.
And then I retook the test and I was like, this is type 6 behavior. And then I tested again as a type 6, and then I reread it on the way here to prepare for this, right? Because you told me to read the description.
Yeah.
So then I read it. I was like, oh yeah, I'm a type 6. So I think I'm a pretty standard type 6. Okay, so this is the interesting part. Whenever I tell people that I like struggle with anxiety, they're like, no way, you? What? So I think what it is I have a lot of anxious thoughts, and we'll probably get to that, where like, I think you told me this, I'm a catastrophizer. Literally in every single scenario. Like for example, I've been in lecture halls before, like for school, right? And then I'll like think to myself, oh, what am I gonna do if like a school shooter comes in? And like, you know, like, or somebody like is like wild in the lecture hall, like how am I gonna get out? Like movie theaters too. And like in an elevator, I'll think like, oh, if the elevator cord were suddenly to snap,
yeah,
and like it were to fall, is there a strategy I can implement to like not die? So like these are a lot of
okay.
So like these are a lot of the thoughts that go in my head.
So I think maybe we both experience a lot of anxiety, but in different ways, which I think is kind of interesting.
It could be, yeah. But I think I'm just so used to these thoughts, like it doesn't really faze me. You know, like I can just think it, like, okay, process it and like move on with my life. So it's kind of like, I'll have quote unquote anxious thoughts, or thoughts stem from anxiety, but then like I think I can cope with them and not have them affect my functional well-being. So I met Dana freshman year in college, so that was what, 6 years ago?
Yeah, I think so.
We met through church, so then I met her at small group. I don't know, I feel like with Dana, I don't think we necessarily hung out a lot one-on-one with each other, like very often, but then we would always like be in group settings together just because of the nature of like our church, how we often go to like church events, like class events together. We're pretty chill. I think we get along fine.
On a scale of 1 to 10, like knowing the characteristics of a type 1 and the characteristics of a type 6, objectively, not really thinking about our friendship, but like objectively, how well do you think that these two like work in a friendship?
I think that it would probably be like a 7 or 8. I think on a basic level, although they come from different motivations, I think 1s and 6s will functionally behave very similarly. But then if it goes sour, it'll probably go pretty bad, which is why it's 8 and not a 10.
So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go through some of the like positive attributes of a type 1 and a type 6 friendship generally, and then we are going to talk about how we kind of relate to those things. It says that Enneagram 1s and 6s are alike in many ways, and they are often misidentified with each other. Both types are extremely hard workers, conscientious, serious-minded, and both have a desire to serve others and improve the world. Both have a guiding sense of purpose, often led by deeply held beliefs and ideals.
So like extremely hard workers, that seems a little extreme, you know?
I feel like you're a hard worker, no? Basically, I think it's saying that we have like a strong sense of like duty and like desire to serve others and be better. And that stems from our like, I think, core beliefs. And I would say that that's true for both of us. Ones bring a sense of reason and mental clarity and an ability to think clearly under pressure and to come to firm decisions quickly. I don't know, because I don't know if I come to firm decisions quickly.
Because I feel like you can like be stuck between decisions, but I think it's like the type of decision as well.
That's true. I will say that I think I'm the type of person where I don't necessarily come to decisions quickly, but once I do come to a decision, I stick very firmly in that decision. I don't really like look back. Like I kind of like have decided and that's what I've decided. Would you say you're similar to that?
I think typically it does take me a longer time to reach a decision. But if I have reached a decision, I think I'm pretty similar in that I won't be swayed that easily. But if it comes from somebody that I trust a lot, like a disagreement in my decision or like the reasoning behind my decision, then that would have more weight and then or make me sway more.
Make you sway more?
Yeah.
I think that I would like to think that I'm that way, but I think that at the end of the day, I am more stubborn than that. I think that usually it will take the person like really, really challenging me in order to make me like sway in my decision. Moving along. So 6s bring warmth, more emotional responsiveness and availability, generosity and playfulness. 6s have the ability to connect with people in a more direct and human way than 1s tend to.
Is you a robot?
I think that's true.
For us specifically or
Yeah.
for 1s and 6s? Oh, interesting.
Or I think I think you could connect to people better than I do. Would you disagree?
I don't know. I feel like I think just what I've noticed is we tend to have different types of friends. So I think it's hard. It's not like a apples to apples like people like to say. I feel like for the latter part, we're equally as like playful, I would think. I think it's also because when I'm with Dana, like I don't know what happens, but then like we just build on each other.
Yeah.
It becomes very loud very quickly and I
Okay, that's what I was also thinking because I feel like when we're together, I think that is accurate, but then I think not necessarily all the time. Because I think I'm like a pretty high stress person, just like generally speaking. So I would say it just depends on like who I'm with or like how much I'm veering towards my 4 or how much, I don't know, how like stressed I am about things. But I think, so for 1s, typically, if they're in like a really positive place, they veer more towards a 7, which is more like enthusiastic and more playful. So I think when I am in like a positive place, I am more that way.
I learned that I'm a 6-wing 7.
Oh, interesting.
So maybe that would play into this.
Interesting. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go into some of the more negative attributes of a 1 and 6 pairing. So I will let you read through those, Sharon.
As stress increases, 1s become more critical and judgmental of everyone, including themselves. They tend to be a clear case of all work and no play, making them fairly joyless and difficult to be around, even in the average levels. Yikes. 1s begin to feel that others are not trying hard enough, are not serious enough, or not mature or meticulous enough, or certainly not as much as 1s are themselves. This creates resentment and accusations which can be extremely wearing on 6s more than it is on 1s. As they become more stressed, 6s become increasingly emotionally reactive, worrying, and insecure. One sense of criticism can drive 6s deeper into their feelings of anxiety and insecurity.
It says, as stress increases, 1s become more like critical of themselves than others. And I would say that's very true. And I feel like that's kind of what we were talking about earlier. Like I can be like more, I think like playful when I'm like veering towards my like positive growth arrow. But then I think when I do get stressed, I think I do like focus on what I need to do, and like it says focus more on work than play. Being fairly joyless and difficult to be around. Yikes. But probably fairly true. Yeah, and I think I definitely can kind of put a standard on others too when I am really stressed out that can be really high, and when those standards aren't met, I can get really frustrated at them or feel like they're like not trying. Because at least in my head, if I'm not meeting that standard, I know I'm trying like very hard and being very hard on myself for not meeting that standard. Obviously that's, you know, not great, but I would say that that's kind of what I could lean towards in more of a negative state. I think it goes on to say that this is something that can wear on 6s a lot, but I feel like this could wear on literally anyone.
Well, I think in the sense that they're talking about, but I think 6s tend to latch on a lot into like whether or not the relationship with another individual. And for example, for this relationship between a 6 and a 1, if a 6 really needs to see security in that 1, and the 1 is constantly telling you that you have to be better, like that's kind of rough for the 6, you know?
Yeah.
Because you won't find that security anymore. You're kind of like, oh, am I not good enough for this relationship? Is this relationship gonna fail? And then you crumble into like...
I think we don't necessarily experience that, but I think that that could be very accurate for 1s and 6s.
I do agree that when I become more stressed, I become more emotionally reactive, because I think usually if I'm like in a peaceful state, I'll be like I'll rely more on logic to solve issues than like my feelings. But I think that when I'm stressed, I just like, you know, the logic goes out the door and then I just become very like irritable, I would say. Yeah, I would react first rather than like thinking through whether or not it is wise to act in that way. Yeah.
It's interesting because type 1s and type 6s often mistype for each other, and I would say I'm very similar in that way, that I think when I am like in a more positive space, I think I do think through things more logically, but then when I'm stressed, I definitely react more emotionally as well. I would say overall, these things seemed pretty accurate. I think within our friendship, I feel like we don't like necessarily interact on such a deep level frequently enough for a lot of these things to like become issues. So then I think we're able to kind of stay within that realm of like positive things, if that makes sense. Like we don't like see each other that frequently, especially since COVID. This is the first time I've seen you since like...
No, second time.
Second time I've seen you in like a really long time.
Yeah.
So I feel like because we're not like interacting daily or like all the time or anything, I feel like not a lot of those negative attributes kind of seep into our friendship, and I think that more of the positive ones are able to thrive, where I think that we are like more playful and more like fun within our friendship. And like you said, I feel like when we are together, we tend to, things just escalate quickly. On that note, Sharon, do you have any favorite Enneagram 6 memes that you would like to share with the world?
Yeah, I looked them up on the way here. So it's Enneagram 6s, and then it's this meme. It's like, I'll be safe if I could just think of everything that could go wrong and dwell on it.
You thinking about lecture halls.
My life. This one says, does anyone else pack underwear for a trip like they're planning on pooping themselves twice every day? I related to that one like at a very deep level. Like,
how many pairs of underwear do you pack?
So I went backpacking in Europe, right? So all I brought with me was a backpack, which is like the inverse of what you would expect from a 6, because you want to pack everything. And then like for underwear and socks, I pack like double the amount.
Well, on that note, we are going to end this video here. Thank you, Sharon, for being on my channel and for talking about the Enneagram 6 with me. Make sure to check out next week's video where we will be talking about the relationship between an Enneagram 5 and an Enneagram 1. Almost. Were you gonna say?
No, you can do it over again, I'm sorry.
Go ahead and leave a comment down below letting me know if you have any Enneagram 6 friends and what your friendship looks like. Other than that, make sure to like this video, and if you haven't already, please go ahead and subscribe, and I will see you guys next week. Bye! It's getting louder.
Gonna tell me I actually do have anxiety. Like, I don't think you're correct.
I'm like diagnosing her. I'm like, Oh yeah. Yeah.